morning, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I am going to make a horseradish, turkey, and ham and Swiss loaf using my bread machine. This is Jenny O turkey ham because we don't eat pork, so this is closest thing to ham. We slice and shave it very thin using this slicer we got off of Facebook Marketplace. So Raymond's gonna slice the ham, then I'm gonna bring in my bread machine, show you all the recipes. Let's get started. We're gonna go ahead and slice it. Ray and I both like it shaved, really fine fluff for when we have sandwiches. This is exactly the way I like it, nice and thin, and it holds to one piece when it's shaved. We're going to go ahead and shave the whole entire loaf. What I don't use today for the ham and Swiss loaf, I like to have sub rolls, make up sandwiches with cheese, and put them in the freezer, and during the week we have an instant lunch. We're going to flip it over, because partway through it gets this little ridge. Any thick pieces or beginnings or ends of the loaf we'll cube and put into other kinds of foods like omelets and soups and things. As seen here, the prongs are no longer putting pressure in it. You can't shave anymore, so we will just cube the rest. And since the bread machine takes between 2 hours from the time I get to actually make this, I just put a piece of food grade wax paper on it and the lid, and I'll store it in the refrigerator. Now let's start the bread machine. This is one of many videos that I have made using the bread machine. Check out the playlist up there, or it may be up there, not sure, on cooking from scratch. I like to store a towel in my bread machine base so this won't scratch it. To keep your bread machine clean, it is always best to put all the ingredients in the pan outside of the bread machine. This is a basic recipe, almost like my other buttermilk wheat rolls for the bread machine. With all bread machines, you always add the liquids in the bottom first. You can get the printable recipe at the blog. I will definitely leave that link below, and then you'll be able to print it out like all the other recipes. For this recipe, we will need to add the liquids first, which is 3/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons of homemade buttermilk. I have my buttermilk and my butter sitting in a pan of hot water. I use the man on tap hot water. While I'm getting all my ingredients, I just let it come to room temperature. I don't gauge it and I don't measure it. Very simple. You can actually skip this step, but it's best to have all your ingredients room temperature. Now you want to go ahead and add your paddle blade. Make sure it's pushed down. Now you will add your liquids, and that includes your butter. That's 214 grams of buttermilk and 2 tablespoons of room temperature homemade butter. A little trick what I like to do is take my glass tablespoon, put it in that pan of hot water that the buttermilk was soaking in, and I add approximately 2 tablespoons of honey. Because this is also considered a liquid, so you want your liquids in the bottom. Since this is horseradish mustard bread dough, you have 2 choices. This is fermented horseradish mustard powder. I made this March 8th, 2020. So you can hear the air come out of that. This is beautiful, even a year later. So you can either add this to your flour, or this is the last I have of the other ones I made. I'm going to save this for dipping, and I'm going to use the powder today. So now we have our wet ingredients. You don't have a scale like I usually measure everything, then you'll be able to use these to follow exact recipe. I'm going to use, I'm going to say probably, I'm going to put in 1 tablespoon and see in the flour to see how it looks. I add between 1 and 2 tablespoons. In this bowl is 2.5 cups of all-purpose organic unbleached flour, or you can grind your own. It'll still be 2.5 cups or 349 grams of flour, or wheat berries. Doesn't matter, the wheat berries are the same once you grind them and once they're raw. I put 1 teaspoon of extra fine sea salt, 1 tablespoon of heavy cream powder, purely optional. I'm gonna add that along with this, 1 tablespoon, and I'm thinking that's gonna be enough. Let me give it a stir. And we're also going to be dipping our ham and Swiss loaf in our wet mustard, so I don't want it too overpowering. I'm going to add 1 more tablespoon. Give it a little bite. Give it a stir. Now we're going to add our flour, salt, heavy cream powder, snap. Push down till you hear it snap. I make a little dibble in the center, and that's where I'll add 1 teaspoon of yeast. It doesn't matter if it's rapid rise or non-rapid rise regular yeast. Close the lid, and for this dough, you will hit the menu button until you see number 9. It'll be 1 hour and 30 minutes. I'm gonna go work in the garden and then come back. And we're back. And this is just flour that I use for my biscuits. Beautiful dough. See how nice that is? So I floured my silicone. This is my dehydrator sheet, and this is what I like to roll it on. So basically, this is the size that I'm gonna make it. It smells delicious. You see all the little peppered specks in here of the dehydrated fermented horseradish mustard? Beautiful. You want it about as thin as you do a pizza. Insert the measurement. This is like making cinnamon rolls. You'll do a layer of butter, but instead we're gonna do a thin layer of horseradish mustard. You could skip this. Just say someone in your house doesn't like the horseradish mustard. You can use regular mustard, or if your children don't like it, you can skip this. But Ray and I really find it intensifies the flavor. You don't want to get too near the edge. And when we bring home our cheese from the deli, we take it out of the plastic container or package. We put it in food grade wax paper, and then we store them in this container. So I'm going to layer the cheese down the center because we're going to be rolling it this way. Now we're going to layer the ham that we previously sliced, and you can go as thin or as thick as you want it. And again, I'm concentrating on the center part because we're going to be rolling it. Then you're going to roll it up. Then I bring the edge over to the top, and then I pinch it closed. I seal it. And you want to bring your edges over and pinch those. Back and re-pinch. It smells delicious. Pinch this over. Then what I like to do is roll it. Now the top is on the bottom, and then I roll it. And what it does, it seals it even better. You can go back over, see how it's sealing nice. Do it again. I like to leave it right on the silicone sheet. Transfer the whole sheet onto my cookie sheet. And it's about 68 degrees in my blogging room. I'm gonna leave this in here. I'm gonna cover it with my flour sack towel that I recently, in my very last video, I showed how to dye this with walnut hulls. I'm gonna let this rise for about 40 minutes since it's kind of cool in here, and then we'll be back when it's time to bake it. And it's been about 45 minutes. This won't double. This just rises, and you can feel that it has risen enough. I'm gonna put this in a 350-degree oven for approximately 30 minutes, and then I'm gonna continue to check it to see if it's done. If I have to, I will cover it with food grade wax paper, and then I'll cover it with foil if it needs an extra 10 minutes to bake. Once it's baked, I'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like. And it's been approximately 50 minutes, and you can see that it's nicely brown. I can actually smell it. That's when I know the bread is done. When you flip it over, you want that to be beautiful golden brown like that. I'm actually gonna roll it on its top, and I'm gonna let it cool 5 to 10 minutes before I start cutting it. That will help it not be so soggy on the bottom. But you can hear that it's done. So let's give this 10 minutes to sit, and then we'll be back. It's been about 15 minutes. I'm gonna flip this back over. Now, my son was going to come today, and when I have company with not a lot of leftovers, I do the braided. But since it's just Ray and I, and this is gonna have to last probably another lunch, or maybe even tomorrow night's dinner, because we'll only eat a portion of it. I would have done the braided loaf like I always do. It would have dried out a lot more, so therefore I left the full loaf of bread. And we're gonna have corn chow-chow, because we're all out of sauerkraut. I like to cut it at an angle. And there you have it. Now Ray likes to tear this part off and just dip it in the sauce. But like I said, you could have had a lot more cheese and ham in this. Looks really, really nice. This is how I normally like to have the smaller slices. To heat this up tomorrow, I'll wrap it in food grade wax paper and then wrap it in foil and put it in the oven or even in my air fryer. But this is another for 2 more meals or a hearty lunch and maybe a snack for dinner. And there you have it. Bon appetit, yum yum. If you want to see more, hit the down arrow. You'll see links and more descriptions. Ring that bell and share on social media and hit all notifications.